Hello, and welcome to the Unsleeping Historian. Settle in, find a comfortable position, allow the weight of the day to gently release its hold. Let your shoulders soften, and your breathing find its own quiet rhythm. There is nothing required of you here. Nothing to do, but to listen, and to drift. Tonight, we are leaving the familiar world behind. We are not traveling through time to witness grand coronations or pivotal battles from a king's perspective. Instead, we are embarking on a journey, one of the most arduous and vital journeys in all of human history. We are joining a caravan, a slow-moving river of commerce and culture, as it makes its way along the fabled Silk Road. Imagine, for a moment, the comfort of the softness of your bed, the quiet stillness of your room, the gentle hum of modern life just outside your window. Hold that feeling of safety, of security, because where we are going, these comforts are the stuff of distant dreams. Our journey tonight is one of contrasts, a story of immense hardship and serene contemplation, of relentless movement and profound stillness. We will walk in the footsteps of a merchant, feeling the grit of the desert between our teeth. We will sit at the feet of a brilliant physician whose ideas would shape the world. We will uncover the secrets of a kingdom swallowed by sand. And finally, we will find a quiet solace within the painted caves of a desert monastery. So, close your eyes if you wish. There is no need to keep track of names or dates. Simply allow the story to wash over you, a gentle tide pulling you back through the centuries. Our journey begins now, not with a grand declaration, but with a simple, repetitive act of loading a beast of burden in the pre-dawn chill, as a trader prepares for another day on the long, unforgiving road. The air is thin and carries a bite that even the thickest felted wool coat cannot entirely repel. Long before the sun has even considered gracing the horizon, there is movement, a rustling, a series of low grunts and groans from the camels, the most vital members of this traveling enterprise. Imagine yourself here, in the heart of the 10th century. You are not a hero, not a general, not a figure of legend. You are a Sogdian merchant, perhaps from the vibrant city of Samarkand, or maybe a Persian, a Turk, a Han Chinese trader joining the caravan further east. Your identity matters less than your function. You are a facilitator, a risk-taker, a human thread in this vast tapestry of trade. The day does not begin with a gentle awakening. It begins with a jolt in the cold darkness, a duty to the animals before yourself. You rise from your bedroll, the ground beneath still leaching warmth from your body, and the first task is to check on the camels. Their guttural complaints are a constant language you must learn to interpret. Is it simple? Displeasure at being roused? Or is it the sign of a developing saddle sore? A subtle limp? An illness that could jeopardize not just a portion of your cargo, but the entire pace of the journey. You run your hands over their coarse hair, checking the security of their packs from the previous day. These are not merely animals. They are your partners, your transportation, your lifeblood. Their well-being is paramount. Each camel can carry hundreds of pounds of precious Kaga shimmering silks, fragrant spices, exotic medicines, fine ceramic sput. They are also fragile creatures, susceptible to the harshness of the road. Breakfast is a brief, functional affair. A piece of stale, hard flatbread, dense and chewy, soft with a sip of precious water from your waterskin. Perhaps some dried dates. Their sweetness, a fleeting luxury in a world of bland sustenance. You eat while standing, your eyes scanning the camp. The other merchants and drivers going through the same stoic rituals. There is a sense of community, but it is a community forged of necessity, not deep friendship. Language is a barrier. A mix of Turkic, Persian, and various Chinese dialects fills the air. But most communication is handled through gestures and a shared understanding of the common goal. To keep moving, the loading process is a science. Each bundle, each crate, must be balanced with meticulous care. An uneven load can chafe a camel's hide raw, a wound that can fester and cripple the animal. You and your hired drivers work with a practiced rhythm, hoisting the heavy bundles, securing them with a complex web of ropes and knots. It is back-breaking work, performed in the biting cold of the morning, your muscles already aching with the memory of yesterday's long march. And then, the journey begins. The caravan master gives a call, and a long, serpentine line of men and animals lurches into motion. The sound is one of shuffling feet, the soft padding of camel hooves on sand or rock, the rhythmic clanging of a few bells, and the ever-present creak of leather and rope. This will be the soundtrack of your life for weeks, for months on end. We often imagine the Silk Road as a single, clear path. The reality was a braid of shifting, unmarked trails across some of the most inhospitable terrain on Earth. Your route now takes you towards the edges of the Taklamakan Desert, a place whose name is often translated as "you can get in, but you can never get out." The description is chillingly accurate. As the sun climbs, the cold of the morning is burned away, replaced by a dry, relentless heat. The landscape is a study in brutal monotony. An endless expanse of sand and gravel stretches to every horizon, shimmering in the heat haze. The sky above is a vast, indifferent bowl of blue. There are no trees, no birds of note, no landmarks to break the oppressive sameness. To lose sight of the caravan is to be lost entirely. Your face is wrapped in cloth to protect against the sun and the fine, abrasive dust that the wind constantly whips into the air. It gets into your eyes, your throat, your food. It is a constant, irritating presence. Thirst becomes your primary sensation. Water is strictly rationed. You allow yourself only small, unsatisfying sips throughout the day. The lukewarm, slightly brackish liquid tasting of the goatskin bag it's stored in. To drink too freely is to invite disaster for everyone. You have seen men maddened by thirst, their desperate pleas for more water ignored by the caravan master, whose calculations are cold and absolute. The march is slow. A camel's pace is not swift. It is a steady, swaying rhythm that becomes hypnotic. You walk beside your animals for much of the day, conserving their strength, mile after mile, hour after hour. Your mind, at first, might race with thoughts of profits, of dangers, of home, but soon, the rhythm of the journey takes over. The plodding steps, the swaying gait of the camels, the vast emptiness around you. It can lull you into a state of near. This is the rhythm of their lives. Danger is a silent companion on this journey. It is not always a dramatic confrontation. It is the anxiety that gnaws at the edges of your consciousness. Every distant shimmer on the horizon could be a mirage, or it could be a band of nomadic horsemen, bandits who view your precious cargo as their own. You find yourself constantly scanning the horizon, your hand never far from the hilt of the simple dagger at your belt, though you know it would be of little use against a determined group of raiders. The fear is not of a noble fight, but of a swift, brutal, and anonymous end in the middle of nowhere. Equally dangerous are the officials at the scattered oasis checkpoints in garrison towns. These are the gateways to safety, to fresh water and supplies, but they come at a cost. Each local governor, each petty commander, demands a toll, a tax, a gift. The negotiations are a tense dance of diplomacy and veiled threats. You must offer enough to be allowed passage, but not so much as to erase your race within profit margin. A miscalculation, a perceived insult, could lead to your cargo being impounded, or worse, you being imprisoned. It is extortion, plain and simple, a constant struggle built into the cost of doing business. As dusk begins to settle, casting long shadows across the dunes, the caravan master signals for a halt. The process of making camp is the morning's work in reverse. The camels are coaxed to their knees, groaning in protest. The heavy loads are removed to give the animals a night of rest. You check them again, meticulously, for any new sores or injuries. The evening meal is much like the first. More hard bread, perhaps some dried meat, tough and stringy, or a thin gruel cooked over a small fire made of precious dried animal dung, the only fuel available. The conversations around the fire are muted. Men are too weary for grand stories. They speak of the day's mileage, the state of the animals, the quality of the last water source. There is a shared solitude here. You are surrounded by others, yet profoundly alone with your thoughts, your fears, and your longing for a journey's end that is still months away. Sleep is a refuge, but it is rarely deep. You sleep with one ear open, listening for any unusual sounds in the night. The wind howling across the sands can sound like voices. The shifting of a restless camel can startle you awake. The cold seeps back into the world, and you pull your rough blanket tighter, dreaming not of riches, but of a cool, clean stream of water, of a soft bed, of the faces of loved ones you may not see for another year, if you see them at all. This single day, with its hardship, its anxieties, its relentless monotony, will be repeated tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that. This is the price of connecting worlds. The life of our caravan trader is a testament to physical endurance, a life measured in miles walked and dangers survived. But the goods they carried were not the only things of value traversing these vast distances. Tucked away in carefully wrapped bundles, protected from the elements with as much care as the finest silk, were books, manuscripts, ideas. Knowledge traveled the Silk Road just as surely as spices and gems did, and this invisible cargo would fuel a golden age of intellectual discovery. Let us now gently shift our focus from the physical road to the intellectual one. Let us leave the grit and the dust of the trail and enter the quiet, lamplit world of one of history's most brilliant minds. A man whose life was inextricably linked to the cultures and knowledge that flowed through these very trade hubs. His name was Abu Ali al-Husayn ibn Abdullah ibn Sina, known to the Western world for centuries simply as Avicenna. He was born in the year not far from the great Silk Road city of Bukhara, in what is now modern-day Uzbekistan. From his earliest days, it was clear that his mind was different. It was a mind of singular brilliance, operating on a level that few could comprehend. While other children played, a young Avicenna consumed knowledge with an insatiable appetite. By the age of 10, he had committed the entire Quran to memory. By 16, he was debating the finer points of medical theory with seasoned physicians. By 18, he had mastered every field of knowledge available to him, from the logic of Aristotle to the complexities of Islamic jurisprudence, from the mathematics of Euclid to the astronomy of Ptolemy. Imagine a young man, barely on the cusp of adulthood, who feels he has learned all that his teachers can possibly offer. His education was a journey through the collective wisdom of the world, a world connected by the very caravans we have just been following. In the grand libraries of cities like Bukhara, he had access to Greek philosophy, Indian mathematics, and Persian science, all gathered over centuries of exchange. His life took its first pivotal turn when the local ruler, the Samanid Emir, fell gravely ill. The court physicians were baffled, unable to diagnose or treat the ailment. In desperation, they summoned a brilliant young man whose reputation was already beginning to spread. Avicenna, with his encyclopedic knowledge and keen observational skills, correctly diagnosed the emir's condition and prescribed a successful course of treatment. His reward was not gold, but something far more valuable. He was granted access to the Royal Samanid Library, a sanctuary of knowledge that was legendary throughout the Islamic world. For Avicenna, this was paradise. Here, he spent his days and nights in a state of quiet rapture, devouring texts that few had ever seen. He was not merely absorbing information, he was building a new framework for understanding the universe, medicine, and the nature of existence itself. It was in this period that he began to formulate the ideas that would form the basis of his life's work. But the world of scholarship rarely exists in a vacuum. The stability that had allowed Avicenna to flourish was built on the shifting sands of political power. The Samanid dynasty collapsed, and Bukhara was conquered. Suddenly, the brilliant young scholar and physician was without a patron, a man of note in a city now ruled by those who did not know him. And so began a pattern that would define the rest of his life. A constant, wearying search for a stable environment in which to work. His life became a journey, an echo of the merchant's travels, but his cargo was his own intellect. He traveled from court to court across Persia, offering his services as a physician and an advisor to various local emirs and princes. His genius was a key that could open the doors to power and comfort, but it was also a source of peril. He became a vizier or chief minister on more than one occasion, and found himself embroiled in the turbulent currents of court politics and military rivalries. He experienced wealth and high office, but also professional jealousy, political conspiracy, and the bitterness of exile. During one of these periods of upheaval, while in the service of the ruler of Hamad, his political enemies conspired against him. He was arrested and cast into a fortress prison. Imagine the contrast. The most sophisticated mind of the age, confined to a cold, stone cell. Yet even here, his intellect could not be imprisoned. In the dim light, he composed some of his most important works, his mind a sanctuary that his captors could not breach. His imprisonment was not a period of idleness, but of intense, focused creation. Throughout all this turmoil, this constant movement and uncertainty, Avicenna wrote with a relentless passion. His energy was astounding. His students reported that he would often lecture and treat patients all day, then gather his pupils at night to dictate his great works, often with a glass of wine to keep his spirit and energy flowing, continuing until the early hours of the morning. Two of his works stand as monumental pillars of human thought. The first is the Book of Healing, a vast philosophical and scientific encyclopedia. It was not a book about medicine, as the title might imply, but about healing the soul from ignorance through philosophy and science. The second, and by far his most famous work, was Al-Qanon fil-Tibb, or the Canon of Medicine. This was a colossal undertaking, a systematic codification of all medical knowledge of the time, from the Greco-Roman tradition of Hippocrates and Galen to the insights of Indian and Persian physicians. all synthesized and rationalized through his own observations and philosophical framework. The canon was remarkable for its clarity and organization. It discussed the causes of health and disease, listed and described hundreds of medicinal substances, detailed surgical procedures, and offered diagnoses for countless ailments. It was so comprehensive, so logical, that it became the single most important medical reference in the world for centuries. And here, the story comes full circle, back to the Silk Road. Copies of the canon of medicine were painstakingly made traveling east back towards China and west, where they were eventually translated into Latin in Spain and Italy. For over 600 years, Avicenna's canon was the standard medical textbook used to train doctors across the Islamic world and in the burgeoning universities of Europe. A physician in Paris, in the 15th century, would have been learning from the wisdom of a man who lived and wrote in Persia 400 years prior. Avicenna's life was one of profound contrasts, a life of soaring intellectual heights and crushing political lows, a life of wandering and instability that somehow produced works of monumental permanence and order. He died at the age of 57, his body worn out by his punishing work schedule and the rigors of his unsettled life. But his mind, his ideas, had achieved a kind of immortality. They had become part of the very fabric of knowledge, a treasure more precious than silk, carried on the slow and steady current of the roads he knew so well. Avicenna's legacy is one of his ideas, captured in ink on parchment, proved more durable than the stone walls of the castles he was imprisoned in. But the desert, which carried his knowledge along its dusty arteries, has another quality. It does not just preserve ideas, it preserves secrets. It can swallow entire civilizations, shrouding them in a silence of sand that lasts for centuries, waiting patiently for a curious hand to peel back the layers. Let us now travel to a place where time itself seems to have stopped. A place that was once a bustling hub on the Silk Road, a vibrant kingdom full of life, which then vanished from history so completely that it was relegated to the realm of myth. We are searching for the lost kingdom of Loulan. Our story shifts to the vast, arid expanse of the Tarim Basin, in the heart of the Taklamakan Desert. For over 1,500 years, Loulan was little more than a name, a footnote in ancient Chinese chronicles, a troublesome small kingdom on the fringe of the Han Empire. Then, at the turn of the 20th century, a Swedish explorer named Sven Hedden, guided by a local hunter chasing a stray axe, stumbled upon the ruins of a forgotten city. He found crumbling stupas, the timber frames of houses half buried in the sand, and scraps of documents written in languages long since dead. The lost kingdom of Loulan had been found. What archaeologists have since uncovered is a civilization frozen in time. The unique climate of the Tarim Basin intensely dry, with salty, it is a land that does not permit decay. Wood, leather, fabric, even human hair and skin, remain uncannily intact across the millennia. To excavate Loulan is to step into a silent, dust-covered room that was abandoned 16 centuries ago. The most profound and enigmatic of these discoveries are the mummies. These are not the intentionally embalmed and elaborately wrapped mummies of ancient Egypt. The people of Loulan were preserved naturally by the desert itself. They were buried in simple graves, and the arid earth simply desiccated them, freezing them on the cusp of eternity. And among them is one figure who has captivated the world, the beauty of Loulan. She was discovered in 1980. But her slumber is far older. She lived and died nearly 4,000 years ago, long before the Silk Road as we know it even existed, a silent testament to the deep, ancient history of this crossroads. Imagine her, not as a grim spectacle, but as a tranquil mystery. She lies on her back, her face serene, with high cheekbones and fine features. Her auburn brown hair is still neatly arranged, tucked under a felted wool hat, adorned with a single goose feather. She is dressed in a simple woolen skirt and sheepskin boot. Beside her was a small woven basket, still holding grains of wheat. Her existence raises more questions than it answers. Her features, and those of many other mummies found in the region, appear to be Caucasian. This has led to intense debate about who these early inhabitants of the Tarim Basin were. Were they migrants from the west? From the steppes of Eurasia, a lost tribe of Indo-Europeans who settled in this remote basin thousands of years before the Han Chinese expanded their influence. The beauty of Loulan does not speak. She simply offers us her peaceful, silent face, a riddle from the Bronze Age. As we move forward in time, to the Loulan of the Silk Road or Aether Kingdom mentioned in the Han Chronicles, Eva mystery shifts. It is no longer about who the people were, but where they went. For centuries, the kingdom of Loulan was a vital, if small, power. Situated on the shores of a vast salt lake called Loulan, it was a critical oasis, a place for the caravans we followed earlier to rest and resupply, before or after the treacherous crossing of the It was a place of exchange, a melting pot of cultures, caught precariously between the powerful Han Empire to the east and the nomadic Xiongnu Confederation to the west. And then, around the 4th century CE, it simply disappears. The vibrant oasis city falls silent. The caravans stop coming. The name Loulan fades from the records. The desert, which had sustained it, moved to reclaim it. For 16 centuries, it slept. Why? There is no single, dramatic answer. The fall of Loulan was likely a slow, quiet strangulation, not a sudden cataclysm. Archaeologists and climate historians have pieced together a compelling theory. The lifeblood of Loulan was the river that flowed from the mountains to feed its oasis, and the Great Lake of Loulan. For reasons we are still trying to fully understand, perhaps a shifting climate, perhaps deforestation in the river's distant headwaters, that river began to change its course. Imagine the quiet anxiety of the people of Loulan. Each year, the water level in the lake drops a little further. Each year, the reed beds on its shores recede. The fields of wheat and barley become harder to irrigate. The trees that provided wood and shelter begin to wither. A constant struggle for existence becomes even harder. This was not a Pompeii-like disaster, but a creeping, inexorable decline. A slow starvation of the very land they depended on. Added to this ecological pressure was the constant political stress. Being caught between the Han and the Xiongnu was like being caught between two grinding millstones. Loulan was forced to switch allegiances, to pay tribute, to endure military garrisons. This constant instability would have drained its resources and its will. And so, the people left. It was likely not a mass exodus, but a gradual abandonment over generations. Families would have packed their meager belongings and moved on, seeking a new home, a more reliable source of water. Eventually, the last inhabitants simply walked away, and the wind began its patient work of burying the city, preserving its secrets for us to ponder today. The story of Loulan is a quiet, haunting reminder of the fragility of life in the face of nature. It demonstrates how even a thriving hub of human connection and commerce is utterly dependent on the subtle shifts of a river, or a change in the patterns of the wind. It sits there now, a ghost city in a sea of sand, its silent inhabitants and crumbling walls whispering a story of a world that was a life that flourished, and a silence that ultimately reclaimed it all. The sands that swallowed Loulan also surrounded places of incredible vitality. The desert creates emptiness, but it also creates the conditions for unique forms of sanctuary. To escape its harshness, its chaos, its constant struggle, people sought refuge not only in oases of water and greenery, but in oases of the mind and spirit. Let us now complete our journey. We leave the haunting silence of the Lost Kingdom and travel to another jewel of the Silk Road, a place that was, for 1,000 years, a beacon of light against the vast emptiness of the desert. We arrive at the oasis town of Loulan, but we are not here to trade in the bustling market. We are here to seek a different kind of peace. We are stepping into the serene and ordered world of a Buddhist monk. Imagine the cliff face at Mogao, just outside Loulan. It is a wall of rock, honeycombed with nearly 500 man-made caves, each one a sanctuary carved from the earth. This is the Mogao Grottos. From the outside, it is a stark and impressive sight, but inside, it holds a world of profound tranquility. This world provides the ultimate contrast to the life of our caravan trader. His life was one of relentless horizontal movement, of pushing ever forward across a punishing landscape. The life of a monk here is one of vertical ascent, an inward journey towards enlightenment, lived within a contained and sacred space. The monk's day does not begin with the groan of a camel, but with the deep, resonant tone of a bronze bell or a wooden gong. Its sound vibrates through the cool morning air, a call not to physical labor, but to inner stillness. Before the sun rises, the monks gather in the main hall. The air is thick with a sweet, woody scent of incense. The light from flickering oil lamps casts soft shadows on the walls, which are adorned with vibrant murals of celestial beings and scenes from the life of the Buddha. And then, the chanting begins. It is not a performance. It is a deep, resonant hum, a collective vibration that seems to anchor the very space. For a traveler, like our merchant, who might be sheltering at the monastery, this sound would be a profound comfort. It is the sound of order, of peace, of something constant and unwavering, in a world of perpetual risk and motion. A soothing drone that calms the weary mind. After meditation and a simple breakfast of congee or millet, the day's work begins. For many monks at Dunhuang, this work was a sacred duty of preservation and creation. They were scholars and scribes. Enter the scriptorium, a quiet room, or cave dedicated to the meticulous copying of sacred texts. Here, the only sounds are the gentle rustle of paper, the click of a stone grinding ink on an inkstone, and the soft, focused breathing of the scribes. Imagine a monk sitting cross-legged at a low table. His posture is perfect. His concentration is absolute. With a fine brush, he carefully paints the complex characters of a Buddhist sutra onto a scroll of paper or silk. Every stroke is an act of devotion. This is not merely transcription. It is a form of meditation in itself. Through this patient, painstaking work, knowledge was multiplied. A single text that had traveled thousands of miles from India, carried by a pilgrim, could be copied dozens of times here. These copies would then re-enter the great river of the Silk Road, carried by other travelers to China, to Tibet, to Korea, and Japan. The monks of Dunhuang were the quiet, essential librarians of this ancient highway of ideas. Their life was one of serene routine. While the trader battled sandstorms, the monk battled distraction. While the trader worried about bandits, the monk contemplated the nature of him. It offered spiritual guidance, but also practical shelter. Our trader from segment 1, weary and dust-covered, might have found his way here. Instead of the suspicious glare of a checkpoint official demanding a bribe, he would be met with a calm gaze. He would be offered a simple, nourishing meal, a bowl of vegetable stew and some bread, without any expectation of payment. He would be given a clean, quiet place to unroll his bedding for the night. The sound of distant chanting, a lullaby far more soothing than the howling desert wind. For a few days, the gnawing anxiety of the road could be set aside. Here was a place where commerce and profit held no meaning, where the only currency was devotion and compassion. The life of the monk was simple, but not empty. It was filled with the richness of the inner world. In the afternoons, there might be philosophical debates with fellow monks, or the quiet tending of a small vegetable garden. There would be time spent simply sitting inside one of the painted caves, contemplating the magnificent murals. Imagine sitting in the cool, still air, your eyes tracing the lines of a serene, smiling Buddha, his hand raised in a gesture of reassurance. The chaos of the world outside, the dust, the heat, the danger, all of it feels a world away. Here, there is only peace, a deep, abiding peace that comes from a life of purpose, repetition, and removal from the struggles of the material world. This was the other side of the Silk Road, not a road of peril, but a path of faith, not a source of worldly riches, but a wellspring of spiritual tranquility. The monastery at Dunhuang was the quiet, contemplative heart that beat steadily amidst the chaos of the journey. And so, our journey along the Silk Road comes to a gentle close. We have walked in the worn-out sandals of a merchant, our shoulders aching with the weight of his anxieties. We have marveled at the brilliant mind of Avicenna, a man whose thoughts outlasted empires. We have stood in the heart of a lost kingdom, feeling the silence of 16 centuries. And we have found rest in the serene, chanting halls of a desert monastery. The Silk Road was more than a route for trade. It was a testament to the human condition, in all its complexity. It was a story of immense suffering and profound resilience. A story of commercial ambition and of spiritual longing. The trader, the physician, the forgotten king, the contemplative monk, they were all threads in the same vast and intricate tapestry. Their world was loud, dangerous, and uncertain. Their struggles were immense. Yet, from that hardship came connection. From that chaos came knowledge. From that silence came beauty. Now, bring your awareness back to the present moment, back to the quiet comfort of your room. Feel the steady support of the bed beneath you. Notice the stillness, the safety. The centuries that separate you from that dusty, difficult world have dissolved its hardships, leaving only a story, a gentle echo. There are no sandstorms here, no bandits on the horizon. There is only the peace of this moment, and the invitation to let go. The journey is over. The caravan has reached its final destination. It is time to rest, time to sleep.